Few films have redefined what cinema could be in quite the bold way that Avatar did when it arrived in 2009. Directed by James Cameron, it transported audiences to Pandora, a lush, bioluminescent moon, where humans, the sky people, confront both wonder and destruction. It's a mix of immersive 3D, motion capture, and groundbreaking CGI didn't just feel new, it felt like a leap into a future of filmmaking. Now, get ready. We're about to explore 20 strange but true facts about Avatar, behind-the-scenes stories, casting gambles, early ideation, and quirks that shaped the film you watched. Let's start with some that set the stage, how the script was born, how the lead actor got chosen, and how Cameron waited years for tech to catch up.
Can you hear me, Jake?
No problem.
That's good. I can see you can remember that one.
Got it.
Fact 1. Sam Worthington lived in his car before Avatar. Before he was Jake Sully, Sam Worthington had a rough patch. He sold off almost everything he owned, remodeled a hatchback, put a mattress in it, and lived out of it around Sydney. He said in interviews that this was before he auditioned for Avatar, a period when he was unhappy, trying to escape the direction his life was going. This moment matters more than just the struggle. Cameron's audition team reportedly found Worthington compelling not just because of the performance, but because there was something raw in him, someone who'd gone through hardship. That likely lent credibility to his portrayal of Jake Sully, a man displaced, struggling physically and morally, drawn into a world not his own.
Let's dance.
Fact 2. James Cameron wrote an early treatment in 1994. The core idea for Avatar is much older than the film's release. In 1994, James Cameron wrote an 80-page treatment for Avatar. That early version was elaborate and detailed, drawing on science fiction books, adventure novels, and Cameron's own imagination, including vivid descriptions of bioluminescent flora and fauna. But even after the treatment, Cameron felt something was holding him back: the tech. For several years after, he paused on production because the motion capture, CGI, and rendering capabilities weren't yet good enough to realize the world fully. The film's visuals, its rendering of Pandora, the Na'vi, they all required computing power and effects craft that didn't fully exist in the mid-90s. Cameron's patience meant Avatar could only be made once the tools caught up with his vision. Fact 3. Pandora's dream origin, Cameron's early visions. Part of Avatar's world building came from dreams that Cameron had, or his mother had. According to the sources, some of the bioluminescent forest images came straight out of Cameron's imagination. Glowing plants, mist, strange animals with light-emitting features, and landscapes that seemed otherworldly even in dreams. These were not simply artistic flourishes, they became design cornerstones for Pandora. These dream-inspired visuals helped make Pandora feel mythic, not just another fantasy world, but one with a deep emotional core. When viewers see the glowing forests, floating mountains, or rivers lit by microscopic organisms, they're seeing ideas that were planted long before the cameras rolled. The dream served as a seed for design, mood, and tone. Fact 4. Project 880, the working title and scriptment. Before Avatar was ever finalized, it went by other names and had different drafts. One early, wide-ranging project name was Project 880. Cameron developed a scriptment under that name, a mix of treatment and screenplay, that included characters, plot arcs, and world details not present in the final cut. Some characters had different names. Some versions of relationships and conflicts were more complex. The term scriptment is key here. Hardly just sketches, but detailed narrative blueprints. These early versions allowed Cameron and his team to explore ideas, Na'vi culture, human Na'vi conflicts, Pandora's environment over many years, refining what to keep, what to revise, and what to drop. That long gestation is part of why the film feels so richly textured. Fact 5. Avatar's CGI and visual effects were groundbreaking. When Avatar came out, audiences were stunned by how real Pandora looked. The visual effects in the film weren't just about flashy things, they were about integrating live actors with CG worlds. Cameras captured facial expressions and motion capture performances, and visual effects houses like Weta Digital pushed the limits of what was possible in rendering skin, water, light, and alien flora. One example, Avatar was among the first big blockbusters to extensively use performance capture for facial detail. Every subtle emotion, every twitch mattered. That nuance helped make the Na'vi characters feel alive, believable, not just creatures in a fantasy, but beings with presence. The lighting passes, motion capture rigs, and digital rendering took massive time and innovation to pull off. Fact 6. The film is about 60% CGI and 40% live action. While it feels like a fully digital movie, Avatar is actually a hybrid. Roughly 60% of the film is computer-generated imagery, while the remaining 40% is live action, according to James Cameron. Scenes with actors like Sigourney Weaver and Giovanni Ribisi were shot on constructed sets, then extended digitally into the larger Pandora environment. This careful mix is part of why the movie feels so grounded despite its heavy reliance on visual effects. Audiences weren't just watching a cartoon world, they were watching a world where live action merged seamlessly into digital artistry. It was the balance between tangible sets and digital environments that sold Pandora as a place that could exist. Fact 7. The Hallelujah Mountains were inspired by China. One of Pandora's most stunning visuals, the floating Hallelujah Mountains, were inspired by real geography. The design team based them on the Zhangjiajie National Forest Park in Hunan, China, where sandstone pillars naturally rise hundreds of meters into the mist. For the film, Cameron and his artists digitally elevated those pillars to float, creating one of Pandora's most iconic landscapes. The connection to real landscapes gave Pandora a sense of authenticity. Audiences didn't know it, but they were responding to the echoes of Earth's natural beauty, altered just enough to feel alien. It's a reminder that some of the most imaginative worlds are grounded in real-world inspiration. Fact 8. The Na'vi language took 4 years to build. James Cameron didn't actually create the Na'vi tongue himself. He just provided a few names and words as inspiration. The real architect was Dr. Paul Frommer, a linguistics professor at USC, who spent 4 years inventing a fully functional language for Pandora. Frommer designed its own grammar, syntax, and sound system, complete with adjectives, sharp popping consonants rarely heard in English. He wove in influences from Polynesian, African, and Native American languages, while giving it a structure partly inspired by German. The challenge? Make it alien yet pronounceable for actors like Zoe Saldana and Sam Worthington. This wasn't a gimmick. With over 1,000 words, Na'vi became a living language. After the film's release, fans around the world began learning and speaking it, turning Cameron's dream of immersion into reality. Pandora didn't just look real, it spoke. Fact 9. Sigourney Weaver studied real botanists for Grace. Sigourney Weaver played Grace Augustine, a botanist and scientist who empathizes with the Na'vi. To ground her role, she shadowed real researchers, studying how field botanists observe, collect, and record data. Weaver even practiced taking notes while kneeling in the dirt to capture the physicality of field science. That preparation made Grace feel authentic in her curiosity and respect for Pandora's ecosystem. It also deepened the contrast between the exploitative humans of the Resources Development Administration and those, like Grace, who sought to study and protect Pandora's wonders. Fact 10. Avatar was the first film to gross over $2 billion. Avatar didn't just succeed, it rewrote box office history. In early 2010, it became the first film ever to gross more than $2 billion worldwide. Its final tally reached $2.92 billion, a record it held for nearly a decade until Cameron's own Avatar, The Way of Water, and Marvel's Avengers, Endgame competed with it. This wasn't just about money, it was about proving the draw of big screen spectacle. Audiences flocked to see Pandora in 3D IMAX, often multiple times, showing that theatrical experiences still had unique power in the age of home viewing. Fact 11. Matt Damon turned down the role of Jake Sully. Before Sam Worthington was cast, James Cameron actually offered Jake Sully to Matt Damon. Damon later revealed that he was offered not just the role, but 10% of the film's profits, a deal that could have earned him hundreds of millions of dollars. Damon turned it down due to scheduling conflicts with the Bourne Ultimatum. This decision became one of the most talked about what-ifs in Hollywood. Damon himself has joked that he turned down more money than any actor ever. While Worthington ultimately made the role iconic, Damon's near involvement underscores how different Avatar might have looked with an A-list star at its center. Fact 12. Zoe Saldana trained in archery and dance for Neytiri. To embody Neytiri, Zoe Saldana underwent months of specialized training, including archery, horseback riding, and movement inspired by dance. James Cameron wanted the Na'vi to move with fluidity, elegance, and animal-like grace. Saldana worked with choreographers to capture a feline quality in her body language. Her preparation shows in every scene. Neytiri feels both human and alien, relatable and mysterious. Saldana's physicality sold audiences on the idea that the Na'vi were a fully realized species with their own culture and movements, not just blue CGI people. Fact 13. Cameron insisted on a brand new camera system. To achieve the immersive 3D look, Cameron co-developed the Fusion camera system with engineer Vince Pace. The new rig combined two high-definition cameras in one body to mimic human binocular vision, giving depth and realism beyond earlier 3D films. It was bulky, complicated, and expensive, but it changed the industry. The results spoke for themselves. Avatar wasn't just another blockbuster. It convinced millions of viewers to pay extra for 3D tickets and spurred theaters worldwide to upgrade projection systems. This tech leap remains one of the film's greatest legacies. Fact 14. The actors wore performance capture head rigs. Unlike traditional motion capture, Avatar used lightweight head rigs with mini cameras pointing directly at each actor's face. These rigs tracked every micro-expression, lip quiver, and blink, translating them onto their Na'vi counterparts. The technology was so advanced it captured data at 24 frames per second, something unheard of at the time. This innovation meant the Na'vi weren't just animated characters, they were extensions of the actors' performances. It preserved emotional authenticity, allowing audiences to connect with Neytiri, Jake, and others on a deeply human level. Fact 15. The soundscape of Pandora included real animal calls. Cameron's team didn't invent every sound from scratch. Many of Pandora's animal calls were digitally altered recordings of Earth animals. Sound designer Christopher Boyes mixed elephant trumpets, bird calls, and even walrus roars to create a believable alien ecosystem. The Banshees, for example, combined dolphin chirps with lion growls. This layering of familiar yet unfamiliar audio gave Pandora an immersive richness. Viewers subconsciously recognized patterns in the calls, but the tweaks made them strange enough to feel otherworldly, an auditory trick that anchored the fantasy in reality. Fact 16. Sigourney Weaver smoked on screen even though she doesn't. In Avatar, Dr. Grace Augustine, played by Sigourney Weaver, is seen smoking cigarettes in the lab and shuttle. This was an intentional character detail, showing Grace as brilliant but flawed, someone whose disregard for personal health mirrored humanity's disregard for Pandora. Ironically, Weaver herself has never been a smoker. The choice stirred controversy, with anti-smoking advocates criticizing Cameron for glamorizing tobacco in a film aimed at wide audiences. Cameron defended the decision, saying Grace's smoking was part of her flawed humanity. Whether audiences agreed or not, the scene underscored the tension between scientific curiosity and human arrogance. Fact 17. Why the Na'vi are blue, not green. Contrary to popular belief, the Na'vi were never originally green. James Cameron deliberately avoided that color because little green men had long been the Hollywood cliché for aliens, and characters like the Hulk already owned the shade. Cameron wanted something bold, mystical, and distinct. Pink or brown looked too human, yellow was too cartoonish, and purple was already reserved for Pandora's glowing flora. That left blue. The choice was also personal. Cameron's mother once dreamed of a tall blue woman, an image that stayed with him for decades. The only time green came into play was much later, in Avatar: The Way of Water, where the ocean-dwelling Metkayina clan evolved with turquoise-tinged skin. But the iconic Na'vi were blue from the very beginning, a decision that gave them their spiritual, otherworldly presence on screen. Fact 18. Avatar sparked Pandora depression among fans. After watching the film, some fans reported feeling genuine depression, even grief, that Pandora wasn't real. Online forums were flooded with posts about post-Avatar depression syndrome, where viewers longed to live in the Na'vi's harmonious world rather than return to Earth's reality. CNN and other outlets reported on the phenomenon in early 2010. The reaction revealed just how immersive Cameron's world building had been. Pandora wasn't just a movie setting. It was, for some, a vision of a better existence, sparking conversations about environmentalism, spirituality, and humanity's disconnection from nature. Fact 19. Cameron waited for technology to catch up. The myth goes that Avatar nearly ran out of time on its effects, but the truth is stranger. James Cameron first dreamed up Pandora in the 1990s, only to shelve the project when his own company, Digital Domain, told him the technology was decades away. CGI and motion capture just weren't ready. Instead of rushing, Cameron waited. By the mid-2000s, breakthroughs like The Lord of the Rings and King Kong convinced him it was finally possible. Then he pushed Weta FX, then Weta Digital, to pioneer entirely new pipelines: real-time motion capture, revolutionary facial animation, and immersive 3D camera rigs built from scratch. Rather than running out of time, Cameron essentially bent time. He delayed the movie for over a decade until the tools existed to make it real. When Avatar finally premiered in 2009, its effects weren't just cutting edge. They were the future, delivered right on schedule. Fact 20. Avatar's box office strategy relied on 3D theaters. A big part of Avatar's record-breaking box office was its strategic push into 3D. Cameron lobbied for years to expand 3D projection systems worldwide, convincing studios and theaters that audiences would pay premium ticket prices. By the time the film launched, over 3,000 theaters had upgraded their technology. The gamble worked. 3D ticket surcharges accounted for a significant share of the film's $2.9 billion gross, proving audiences would embrace premium experiences for the right movie. This changed Hollywood's distribution strategy for years, fueling a wave of 3D releases across genres. So, we've explored 20 fascinating facts about how Avatar was imagined, filmed, and received. But before we wrap up, there's one more detail. One that shows just how personally James Cameron believed in this project. Let's take a look at the bonus fact. Bonus fact: Cameron funded part of the film himself. Even with Fox backing the project, James Cameron put his own money on the line for Avatar. Reports suggest he invested tens of millions of dollars from his own fortune to push through the performance capture and 3D technology development. For Cameron, it wasn't just a studio gamble, it was personal. He believed so strongly in the future of immersive cinema that he was willing to risk his own financial security. This risk mirrors the themes of the film itself: bold leaps into the unknown. Just as Jake Sully took a leap of faith in embracing Na'vi life, Cameron leapt into the future of cinema. The payoff wasn't only financial, it was cultural, cementing Avatar as a watershed moment in film history. Avatar was more than a blockbuster, it was a turning point. James Cameron took a gamble on technology that didn't yet exist, on a story that fused myth, ecology, and science fiction, and on actors who were willing to step into an entirely new way of performing. What began as an 80-page treatment in 1994 became a cinematic event that changed how the world thought about movies. Every detail, from the Na'vi language built over 4 years, to the floating mountains lifted from China's sandstone peaks, to the emotional weight of Jake Sully's journey, shows how deeply Cameron wanted Pandora to feel alive. Fans left theaters not just entertained but transformed, and some even grieving that they couldn't stay in that world. Few films blur the line between fantasy and reality in quite that way. And maybe that's the strangest fact of all. The movie itself became a kind of portal. It proved that cinema could be more than images on a screen. It could be a place, immersive, emotional, and unforgettable. This is Strange Flick Facts, where we uncover the hidden stories that shape the films you thought you knew. If you enjoyed this dive into Pandora, like, subscribe, and join us for the next.